I get shit done, I have fun. It's my time and I'm the one. I'm breaking through.
Good morning and welcome. I'm the host of the Business Renovator, and today we're going to be talking about overcoming fear, embracing constraints, and breaking through barriers. I have a wonderful group of people, a panelist with lots of experience in around all of those things because they're human beings and all of us face this on a regular basis. So I'm happy to be here. If you're watching us live, thank you for being here live with us. And if you're watching us on the replay, remember to hashtag replay. Let us know where you're watching us from. If you have a question, comment, some feedback for us, that's how we get better. So we want to hear from you. I know what else I'm going to do. I'm going to do a shameless plug for what I do, because this is my sponsor. Hang on as I bring my sponsor into play. Just got to find the spot like they do on TV and fire away. It's true. It's free. All you have to do is go to my site, coachville.ca, and at the top there's a button for your business growth score. And there is no credit card required. It's free. You might find it just validates you're on the right path. You're doing the right things. No need to change. Or you might find something totally different. That's okay. If you're challenged with it and you want to have a conversation, complimentary, no credit card required, again, 30-minute session. Let's have a conversation to see if there's something I can help you with. And if I can't, I know a bunch of great people that probably I could introduce you to if I'm not the right person. And some of them are going to be on my panel this morning, today, this afternoon, depending what time of the world it is where you are. So I'm going to do my darndest to bring up my panelists all at the same time, or at least as fast as I can. I'm going to have them introduce themselves as we go around the horn. And here we are. Just one more to add. There we go. There's 5 of us at the moment. There might be more popping in. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm going to start with the ladies first. How would you like to introduce yourself first, Kellen?
Hi, I'm Kellen Ann. I am the owner of Cards That Wow, which is a strategic gratitude business. I'm an author. I'm an international speaker. And one of Phil's buddies. I love you.
Love you back.
Hi, I'm Melanie. Many know me as Mel, aka #Ignite Trust. I'm a business attraction coach who loves to help people create trust conversations to help them create business opportunities for themselves or their teams, so they're not the best kept secret.
Love that. No secrets in this room. Mike Martin, why don't you take it up?
Yeah, Mike Martin. I'm a focal point coach along with Phil there, based in right outside of Philadelphia. And I specialize in tech, IT, and consulting firms, professional services, helping them understand where they are and what they need to do to achieve their goals.
And Mikey.
Mikey Pearson here in Malibu, California. First of all, I'm a huge fan of Coach Phil's. I mean, everyone else here as well, but giant fan of Coach Phil. I'm a small business coach specializing in working with partnerships, teams, and and absolutely excited to be here.
Awesome. I'm excited you all are here, able to fit this in and to share some of your wisdom with our community out there. The topic today is overcoming fear. There's an acronym for that I first, there's a bunch. And one of them is face everything and rise, or fear everything and run, or what's the other one? Fantasize experience appearing real. It's really what we decide what it means to us. I think, is there anybody in this space that has never had fear? Okay, I see no hands up. That means that all of us have faced fear along the way, somewhere along the way. And so the rest of the title is how do we embrace the constraints that are there, and then breaking through barriers. Who would like to jump in and give us an example one time where you had some fear in your life and you kind of overcame it? Who would like to jump in?
I'll give it a go because I know the moment so well. Freshman in college, had to take a public speaking course. Make the story pretty simple. Came to the final. I couldn't show up. I just was so absolutely terrified for whatever reason. I didn't show up. The professor, she was great. She gave me another chance. I didn't show up to that either. So that's where I started my journey as a public speaker, and overcoming the fear of public speaking.
And I'm going to blow your horn a little bit. You're in a leadership role. You're a coach. You've been the mayor of Malibu. You've been in some leadership spaces where you actually have to be in front of people and talk to them, right?
I absolutely love public speaking. I have 4 speeches coming up in the next 4 weeks. I'll prep for the one tomorrow today. I already know it. It's now it's so easy. I sometimes read my notes on the plane to go speak somewhere, and it's a short paragraph. I'm like, am I really ready for a 1-hour speech? And I'm like, yeah, I am ready. So it's interesting. And that's proof to me of how we can evolve as human beings, how we can overcome fear. And story I share with all of my clients.
I have one that's very similar to that, where I joined a Toastmasters group, and because my mentor said I should, so I did. And I took forever to speak, and I finally did the icebreaker. And then he took a break for summer. I couldn't go back. I was so afraid. Anyway, who else would like to add on to that, their own experience? Yeah, Mike.
I can go. So the first thing that comes to mind for me is when I first was recent college graduate. Within my first 2 years of graduating, I had an opportunity to become an independent or freelance consultant. And it was incredibly terrifying because all I had ever really known, or all my parents had known, was having a full-time job, and going without that net of what at the time seemed like a safety net of having a full-time job. It was really a big leap that I had to take, but it absolutely changed my entire career. And I look back on it being one of the best decisions I ever made. And so I think also to kind of come back to what Mikey said there, I'm a big believer in when you find a fear that points to perhaps maybe it's something that you feel is a weakness. And if you can turn that into a strength, that's the ultimate approach. Like Mikey, you turned it into an absolute strength now, and it just pays tons of dividends when you do that.
Absolutely. There's a fellow by the name of Napoleon Hill, wrote a book called Think and Grow Rich. And he said he said a lot of things, but relevant to what we're talking about, to every adversity, there's an equal or greater benefit. So I think what you guys are talking about is that there's the gift in all of the adversity that we go through. So cool. Ladies, who would like to jump in?
I have so many, I don't even know which one to talk about. I think one of the biggest ones was writing. I'm not going to tell you how many years back, because that would kind of give you a hint of how old I am. But I was a publicist for a county fairground, and I was hired to write press releases. And I studied AP style. I'd never done it before because I was more of a creative typewriter. But the lady hired me, and I'd written probably 20, 30 press releases. And then she fired me and said I was the worst writer she'd ever met. Oh. And I was like, wait, I did it. I did textbook AP. And she's like, she didn't even tell me why. She just said, please, you're fired. And I was like, devastated. I didn't write a word. I'm not going to tell you how many years, but it was more decades. Okay. And it happened during COVID. And I thought, I want to write a legacy, something for my daughter. And I got through that fear with the help of a lot of friends and wrote my first book. And now I've written 5 more. So that's getting over fear, isn't it?
Wow. I don't know if I was afraid of writing, but I had this thing happen in my world. And one of the other people in the focal point world, Chris Deacle, would nudge me, push me, cajole me, or whatever, in a kind sort of way, tell me, Phil, you should write stuff. Phil, you should write stuff. And I went, yeah, I know I don't like writing. It might have been fear-based. I'm not sure. Anyway, that was about 7 years ago. And I committed to writing one article a month for his newsletter, our newsletter.
Yeah.
And I was just messing around with him the other day in the month of September when we released that edition of it. I phoned him back. I phoned and had a conversation with him, and I said, "You know what? That's crazy. You know, all your pushing and coaching and nudging helped me get beyond the barrier and limiting thoughts I had. Now I have 3 articles in 1 month." So don't let fear get in your way, guys and gals.
No. And don't believe what somebody says either.
No, that's very true. And actually, if you get somebody who tells you that, maybe use that as watch this. There was a famous writer.
It was fun sending her my book with all the good reviews and everything.
That would be awesome. There's a movie that came out by I don't remember who it was, but she was told similar sort of thing. You can't write nothing, give it up. But I got a scholarship on writing. Well, no, you're no good. I'll give you enough to get you through as long as you promise not to write. So she bought into that for a whole bunch of years. But she wrote something that's famous. I think it was, it was the one was it The Jewel of the Nile and that whole series of movies? That's the one. Does that sound right? I think it was her. Anyway.
Christie?
Yeah, no, it was one they turned into movies. Anyway, don't let other people's bias of you stop you from being you. Melanie.
My story is so much earlier than your college years. I was wearing what at the time was one of my favorite dresses. It was the day of a school picture. My best friend called me a name that I didn't have a place for. We ended up having a fight. So here I am, a teacher's kid, totally dressed up, not quite 8 years old. So you went to school with like the perfect hair, the perfect dress. And here I am coming home in a dress that I will never be able to wear again. And I remember the fear in the elevator. Of course, we were on the 6th floor and spent some time outside of the building. And the friend who I had a fight with, the two of us used to walk home from school. So I remember it's kind of a creepy, lonely day. And remember getting upstairs and having to ring the bell. And it took a bit because there was no explanation for messing up dress clothes. There was no explanation for having a fight on school grounds. So it was a day of a communication lesson on the highest levels, with a story that ended up being repeated many times that day. So I'll definitely say that was the first real fear day.
So that's we've all faced fear. It sounds like.
I still face fear.
What? It doesn't go away? Yeah, good one, Kellen. Absolutely. I still face it too. I mean, I could have been afraid because some things in the background today haven't gone as smoothly as one would have expected. I had expected. I'm missing one of my co-hosts, and she messages, and I'm not afraid of it. I'm disappointed. Whatever I've done that didn't help her get here. But we move on, right? Face the fear and do it anyway. Which brings us to another point that's part of our headline around constraints. Often or sometimes constraints can seem as limitations. Can you individually share an insight maybe where you had an experience that contradicts that?
It was funny. I was just in a cool coaching session with a new coach who I just had the pleasure of meeting. Hey, Mickey, welcome. So a pleasure of meeting a new coach, and we were talking about things that can restrict you. And one of the constraints sometimes is, and I'll now say it as, Having the glasses on and the reading glasses are essential for all of that really fine small print. But I'm now embracing the changes in vision. I used to think it was a constraint that we couldn't see clearly, couldn't read something, couldn't identify it. It's now become an opportunity to ask someone else a question. Can they see it? What do they see? What did they see from their view or their lens?
Sounds like a bit of a gift from that process for you.
It is. It's really becoming so. So this year, one of the two words is kaleidoscope, which my PQ godfather helped remind me of last year. A change of vision. And for those of y'all who don't know, Phil is my PQ godfather.
I keep using that kaleidoscope thing. It's so powerful. Just a little twist changes the image and the whole perspective changes. It's powerful. I was reminded about that when I was close to where Mikey is. I was hanging out in the hills of Beverly Hill. It was brilliant. So, Mickey,
Morning.
thank you for being here. I'm sorry I gave you maybe inaccurate information. That could have been a constraint, but we didn't let that stop us. We moved forward fearlessly. Would you introduce yourself?
And here we have all of these other forms of communication. Thank goodness. But it was great. I got to see it. I got to see today's show from the other side. So I went on the live stream to watch you guys on stage already. So it was great. I even put in a comment. So it works on the other side too now.
And so who are you?
My name is Mickey Myckworth. I am a math geek. I do business strategy, and I'm just so glad to be here with all of you.
And I'm glad you're here. I was panicking a little bit because you and I used the mastermind principle to break through some constraints. And meeting Mickey on LinkedIn, here we are today. She came up with this idea. We met for a 20-minute call. Turns out to be 2 hours later. She came on the show. And after that, she inspired me with other ideas. She said, we should have a panel. Here we are, one of many.
And you know what? I like the panel.
I do too. I think you're brilliant.
That, this only lets us know that, smart people getting together is a great idea.
Yeah, it's a brilliant idea.
Yeah.
So we're talking about embracing constraints.
I was there. I actually have a random question that kind of came up today, which is FOMO. Anybody have FOMO? I mean, is that part of a fear constraint in any way?
Well, just for those who don't know what that is, fear of missing out. For our audience, if they, it's not like foaming at the mouth. It's fear of
right. Oh wait, never mind.
Oh, whoops! That. Oh,
yes,
that.
I have had that. And where it's gotten away for me, great question, was that I won't commit to something because if I commit to that, then I don't get that. So then I don't commit to that. So because if I commit to that one, now I don't have the opportunity for this. And if I'm doing this, this will happen. Back in the days when I was on the road selling technology, I got a an answering machine, not like we have today, but a real machine, thinking that I'm missing out on all of these people calling me because I'm traveling so much. I get home, I'm disappointed. The little red light's not blinking. If it's not blinking, that means there's no messages. So the fantasy I had was had the false sense of missing out. So I try not to get stuck on that anymore.
Yeah.
Good question. Yeah. How about anybody else?
I'll share a thought. I think with FOMO that's really applies to business, which is sometimes, especially in sales, I think we can have this fear of missing out on opportunities, and we end up chasing every opportunity and every deal rather than zoning in on the ideal client that we should be serving, or even sometimes a fit that isn't good for us or the client, in a relationship standpoint. We're afraid, I'm going to miss out on this opportunity, and we chase it when we shouldn't.
Without saying it, you just described the 80-20 rule. Right? If we focus our efforts on the 20% of the things that matter to us, we'll have 80% return on our energy. Whereas a lot of people are doing the other thing when they're in the fear of missing out mode. They're doing 80%, trying to capture everything and only getting 20% return on their energy.
That kind of brings you to quality versus quantity. Like
yes.
FOMO with before, I don't really have it. I think Max, my pug, has FOMO more than I do, honestly. Like he's outside, I can hear him scratching at the door, like really aggressively. But it's like in sales, like what you want to service everybody, you want to reach out to the world, you want everybody to know about you, and then you get a customer, and then you lose a customer, and you're like, oh my God. But that's where the disaster in my mind became an opportunity. But it took me a while to figure that out, because he was one of my first customers, and I gave him a really low rate, and that opened up an opportunity for like a high paying, a higher quality client that was ordering more and didn't care about price and things like that. So that is my little FOMO turned. Yeah.
Brought to you by Cards.
You're the client I have, so you're one of my faves.
Cards. Wow.
But yeah, so when you don't have the FOMO, you can distinguish between quality as opposed to quantity.
This is another one of our sponsors, Cards That Wow.
And I'm sorry, my chair keeps squeaking. I'll sit still.
Was that your chair?
It's mine.
I thought it was my neck.
No.
Right. We should just plant some moves around your squeak. Yeah.
Can everybody just kind of move a little bit?
Yeah, FOMO is interesting for me. My daughter has it a lot. I don't have it as much, but I ask people in business a lot if they have that, and how do they deal with it, and what does it look like? Because it's different. It's a different kind of fear that I'm afraid to do something, right?
Right.
But it is an action equator in some way. Do you think that a lot of people in business make decisions based on FOMO?
Oh yeah.
I hope not. I truly hope not. And I can only say that from the perspective, it's not a big presence in my life. So if somebody wants to test how good their offer is, send it to me with the countdown timer.
Right.
And I will watch the countdown timer go, because you kind of sometimes really know what's for you, what's not for you.
Yeah.
And I think just like Kellen's saying, I appreciate it because the human design coach said, you're immune to peer pressure. And I think the two sometimes can be a little related, like you're in someone's great presentation and they create a VIP section of people who've accepted their offers. And I've been in, like a hotel room where somebody put all the VIPs like they were in a special area to encourage others to sign up for the deal before the deal expired. And a client had invited me to go because they were going to make a deal. And then she realized in the middle what they were doing. She said, they're separating us. I said, yes, they are. She says, is it a great offer? I said, I'm not feeling it. What do you feel? She says, I'm now feeling less confident about their offer. And she walked in just ready to accept it. But them creating two different areas, like here's the A team, y'all are in the B or the C team. It really just, and I really appreciated it because it really was a reminder kind of the decision-making process that we can use, whether we feel we want to be part of the A team or not.
Right.
What's going through my head is I'm thinking about those of us that are familiar with DISC. There's 4 behavioral styles there, and one of them really has an affinity or they're really stuck on the FOMO side of things, and the other ones are not so much. Is that do you see that, Mikey, or am I just making stuff up?
That's a great question. I don't know. The question brought up my own FOMO, which I was unaware I had. So I'm having my own little moment here. I don't generally consider, but it's interesting about DISC. I got to think about that. But I don't generally consider I have fear of pretty much anything. But if I do, it's like I can see that I have FOMO with some of my clients on missing out on things going on because I want to be so ingrained and so impactful for them that if something's going on and I'm on the outside, it drives me insane. And I'm thinking this week, I have my client in Florida that I love. I found out last week they're coming to a trade show in Las Vegas and to this optical trade show. They're in the optics business. And I've been pushing for them to go to this trade show for 2 years at least. And he's like, yeah, so I have to cancel. We'll be missing our session. I'll be in Las Vegas. I'm like, well, Las Vegas isn't far from me. How about I fly out there? We spend the day together at the trade show. He said, well, I got some meetings. I'm like, well, then either I attend them with you or I meet you after the meetings. And he's like, oh, that's great. That's great. That's great. And I'm like, whew, man, I feel so much better. I mean, just the fear of missing out there. I was like, I've been pushing for this forever and he's doing it. And there's no way I want to miss that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, thank you for, bringing up my own fears I didn't know I had. Now I'm going to have to, decompress over that.
So where I was going with the disc narrative was that I'm an ID in terms of the two behaviors. And one of the things I suffer from, fear of missing out. And as I was saying earlier about making a commitment to doing something, if I commit to that, then I miss out on this. So I want this. So then I don't commit to that, I'll miss out. It's just a crazy circle. So I'm not as bad as I once was because it's a learnable, with life as a journey. It's not a destination. So that showed up for me in the behavioral sciences, what DISC brings up. The analyticals are not so much worried about that. They just push forward anyway. The director's fast-paced thinking. I think it's just those who have high I tendencies, speaking from my own personal experience. And it's been top of mind for me as of late. I get to do 53 in total, but 43 this year. And we're about halfway through. So my level of awareness around DISC is heightened because of the one-on-one sessions I've had with all the clients within the company. So FOMO for me is an I, the influence, the fast-paced life of the party, wants to be liked by everybody, which is an insane expectation because not everybody likes everybody, right? So you're missing.
I really like that. I think you're spot on.
Now, I just want to, for our audience, just to remind everybody what DISC is, how to spell it, how to look it up, and where does it come from?
Well, they can get it from me. And you spell it DISC, and it comes from years and years of
DISC. Oh,
Nope.
I was spelling it
Delta.
Oh, D. Okay.
Influence. So it's like director, influence, steady, and conscientious. DISC.
And that's in what is that out of a book? Is that a part of your process? Tell me more about that.
All of that, yes. Actually, what I would like to do is not hogtie this conversation with it, because it will help in some areas that we're talking about, but it requires a deeper dive to really understand it. But essentially what it is, just a high level, is a communication methodology that's observable. And one of the best ways to observe it, I have some props here. You think I have it handy? I know props here. So do you drive a car, Mickey, or a truck, or a motorcycle?
I drive several, yes.
And at the same time?
No, but I'm a car hound. So
anyway, the reason
I'm that person who asks you about your engine.
Right. So,
but
I'm not going to go that. I'm not going to go. You're analytical, dot the I's, cross the T's, right? So
drive a car. Yes.
And so you see it has a dashboard. Mm-hmm. It looks something like that.
Yes.
And it measures speed and temperature. The dashboard does. So DISC does something similar. What's the pace of the person you're talking with? Are they indirect? Are they slow, methodical? Are they fast, rapid, and in your face, going fast at all, or somewhere in between? And are they warm or cold, open or guarded? When you recognize one of each of those traits, show up and communicate at that same level of openness and speed, you'll build rapport faster, develop trust faster than any other way. We're at risk as high as 75% of the time of miscommunicating with the people that we're engaging with. So we could do a session just on DISC another time.
Yeah.
That's a high level. And then the other thing is you want to learn how to be adaptable so you can build rapport, trust with people, meet them where they're at. And on the other thing on here is no one cares about you until they know how much you care about them. And when we do that, we're selling. People don't do things. They buy things, but if there's no trust, there's no nothing else. They won't move forward. Why would they do that? They don't trust you.
Right.
Anyway,
I love it.
that's
So
my commercial for disc.
I feel like there's also a book recommendation in there somewhere,
Oh, probably.
right?
Just can't remember the name of it. There's lots of stuff on disc out there.
Well, good. Anyone who has anything, throw it in. We love all those recommendations. It's one of the things that I think we get the most comments on is how many interesting things all of you read.
Yes, we do all read a lot of different things.
Oh boy, that's true.
And our topic is fear, right?
Well, it's fear, constraints, and breaking through barriers.
And you guys were at constraints. You want to talk about just the constraint? Well, one, we're here, yay! I mean, but sometimes a constraint is a helpful tool, right? Artists use a constraint to keep them agile. What other constraints are you guys having or using?
Our audience gave us a book recommendation. Sorry, Mickey.
Oh, I love it.
Just leave that up there for a minute. Okay, take it off. What was the question? I interrupted.
Constraints. So sometimes a constraint is a positive aspect, right? Where we put some kind of lines around our life. So an artist will often use a constraint. But how are you guys viewing constraint?
Yeah, I'll share a thought there. I think one of the biggest constraints is often internal, right? So I know that a lot of us are familiar with positive intelligence here, but that is a book by a gentleman named Shirzad Chamine, and it's a coaching framework that some of us use as well. But it really talks about how we can get in our own way. And we all have a set of saboteurs and a judge internally that judges ourselves, others, or situations. And we have this set of saboteurs. There it is. I have got mine in the background too. It's a great book. And it really is very eye-opening in terms of how you get in your own way sometimes, and what things, what aspects of how you were brought up and what exists in your personality that may be limiting you, and how you can actually overcome those things with real specific techniques and understanding. So I think that's a big constraint, our own saboteurs.
Yeah, our own fear. I think it's not lost on me at all that as a coach, people come to me for some version of they want to sell more stuff in their business. Mm-hmm. So the first thing I know is there's a reason they're not selling more stuff already. So as a coach, we can go in and identify some of those well-known things they probably aren't doing well. It could be marketing, HR, systems and structure, leadership, all that. But the question then becomes to me, since all these sort of best practices are actually well documented and very well known, why aren't they doing them already? And that's the journey into what's holding them back, what's constraining them, which in my opinion is always some version of fear. In my little world, I believe there's two emotions. One is love, the other is fear. Right. Love is love, and under fear is 10,000 other words: jealousy, rage, it goes on and on and on. Why aren't they doing those things when we can understand that and they come to understand it and start to own it? That's, to me, when real change starts to happen. So that's typically a journey with my clients, and it doesn't happen overnight for most people. Some people, yes, depending on your disc profile, but when you come to understand them and what's really holding them back, which is usually some version of negative learned behavior patterns. So we just do things a certain way because it's safe and easy and it's not scary. Or sometimes it's actually out of some version of trauma, which may not be something as traumatic to you or I, but that episode, and I had this with a client, Mel, of being laughed at. He was laughed at as a young kid in school for how he was dressed. was literally the biggest fear we had to overcome for him to move forward and be successful. Being laughed at as a young kid, he never could get over that.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
that's kind of how I kind of would put all that together personally.
Wow. Mel, what do you think, Melanie?
I think you're bringing up so many different things. I think one of the biggest constraints for some is time, and others sometimes is a financial constraint, whether from a coaching perspective, whether, they're comfortable investing in themselves. So I think sometimes that limit of feeling, I'm running out of time, I need to do everything all at once, I think it can kind of create a bunch of fears and pressures as well, and barriers also, that sometimes people have to work through, as you were saying, for so many different reasons.
So Mel, if you said it was a financial constraint or reason, really? Is it?
I just saw the most interesting post on this last week on LinkedIn from someone that I was following, and they were talking about people from a financial perspective. And as you would say, it was kind of somebody I've been following for a while, who I'll admit I'm not following this week. It was such a reminder. Here's probably the best example. Somebody said a while ago that a coach made an offer to them, and then said if they were really willing to invest in it, they would find the money somehow. And they had this whole discussion with the person about all these different areas of their life without the permission to explore the person's financial background. They had never met the person before. They didn't know really anything about them. And I think in some cases, we really don't know what's behind the surface. So I think I'm from the school that some things will always be private. You always have people who aren't comfortable expressing them. I'm really grateful to positive intelligence, because kind of it helped me explore that kind of vulnerability lane. But financially, there's a bunch of people that are just not willing to go there. And I think we have to respect that. Kind of is their lane.
Oh, absolutely, it is their lane. And where I'm going with it, though, is it a money problem they have, or is it an idea problem?
I think it depends on how it's presented to them and what their feelings are. I mean, for a lot of people, and I appreciate it through the positive intelligence lens, we all have money mindset issues. I'm really appreciative to be surrounded by great coaches to help me explore that through positive intelligence, through human design. I loved it. Somebody looked at my chart and you've got a money block. I said, "Ooh, can we talk about that?" And you'll laugh. That's the first thing we went to on my chart. I said, "You see something in my chart that's holding me back? Can we start there?" Can we start there? But I think it has to do with, as Mickey would say, whether we're interested in embracing it or not. That may be the part of it. It's a personal choice. Do you welcome it? Are you inviting it? Are you comfortable exploring it? Do you want to explore it privately? Do you want to explore it with help?
Yeah. Other thoughts and ideas around that from the other panelists?
I think I agree with Mike. Is it Mikey? I want to say it right. Mike. I agree with you. Constraints equal fear. And I bet 90% of your constraints are in your head or are you. I believe there are other outside factors that can constrain people that they sometimes don't have any control over. But if you go back to the example of the lady that said I was a horrible writer, I could have blamed her and made her my constraint, but I'm the one that listened to it, believed it, and let it rule my head. So that just brings you right back to that 90% that I think that a lot of the time we are our own worst enemies.
Well, I think just adding to that quickly, it's of all the fears, by far the biggest and deepest one is the fear of communication and fear of being judged negatively in that communication. So if I feel if I can help my clients overcome that fear, and there are methods to do it, how to have difficult conversations easily is kind of the key. And once you learn that you can actually have difficult conversations easily, because the fear of doing that is in your head. It is actually not a real thing. And when you let go of the fear and realize it's okay to have that talk, and there is a voice, there's always a voice, which is where DISC can come in and really help you speak in that person's language. But you have that talk, it can change everything. And in my own business that I owned for many years, I'd realize somebody was maybe clocking out, because like the 1 minute manager, I had the time clock by my desk. And I'd say things like, hey, today was a rough day. You know, this isn't really working for me. So, but I really like you. I dig you. I want this to work out. So come on, tomorrow, let's huddle. Let's figure this out, because I'd really like you to be here. And we'd kind of high five, and off they'd go. People are like, wow, you just had a conversation with somebody positively that you're about to fire them, and you guys high fived. How do you do that? I said, that's part of the journey in getting past that fear.
Yeah.
Because unless we're mute, we have a physical capability to communicate. And even a mute has a capability to communicate.
Some people don't want to, though, Kellyanne, and
Right.
that's the part I think
Well,
that.
that's what Mikey was talking about.
But I think also in Phil's title about breaking through barriers, you may have glass ceilings, you may have concrete ceilings. In some of the diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging trainings that I've been in, somebody mentioned bamboo ceilings. There are all sorts of ceilings and restraints, I guess is the word, possibly, other than barriers. Some of them are perceived, some of them in some cases are real. I remember at the beginning of this year, and I really appreciated it, I had joined a group coaching program, and I had written something, probably really, deep journaling for a bit. And I had written something about our fragile world. And there was a group of like 20 people, and I appreciated it. In their feedback, 18 people asked me, what in the world did I mean about a fragile world? And I said, I appreciated the lens, because they were all letting me know they had never experienced a barrier. They had never experienced something that they didn't feel that communication or leadership skills would have compensated. I also realized later that 18 of them were leaders. They weren't used to being in the trenches. They weren't used to not being in charge. They weren't used to not being the decision maker. So it was really interesting to kind of hear the other side of it. When you're not always the decision maker, or you're not in charge of the table, or how many seats, or whether the door is open or closed. How does that change how you perceive it?
Yeah. Phil?
Yes. Deep
Yeah.
conversations today. It's brilliant.
Aren't these brilliant?
I mean, have you ever gone through, like, there's a point in my life right now where I'm not even sure what a barrier is.
Oh, how do you mean?
So, I mean, through COVID, you know, Phil, I've reinvented myself during COVID.
Yeah, I do know.
And am I just being naive and ignoring them, or have I, do I know how to process it in my head so that I can just, I don't care. I mean, I always wonder about that, because, like, honestly, the last year, I don't feel like I've had a barrier.
You know what I like about my experience with you? When we've never physically met, but we've only met.
We tried.
And I messed up my schedule. Another time later next year.
But the world, though, I was willing to drive 6 hours to meet him.
I know, but I told you don't come because I'm leaving. I screwed up. Anyway, we're going to get that sorted out next year. But one of the things I like about your journey is how you've moved from one side of the country to the other, and you stayed committed to your child until she was at a level of she could graduate and go to university. Then as soon as you did that, you had another goal and the vision. And what I like about how you do what you do is you set an intention, and no matter what, you figure out how to make it happen. you started a business where you were in a place of, you kind of reminded me of myself, because I started a business with no money, no place to live, brokenhearted, in debt, and all that stuff. All the reasons why you shouldn't start a business. I didn't let
That's a
that
lot of
bother me.
constraints.
No.
Oh, I think I had all my constraints before all this happened.
Yeah,
I got my worldly limit of them, so I'm done.
But she's created something that, like, these cards, they're not inexpensive in terms of the price to get her to do these. These are handmade, 3-dimensional, and they're impactful when they send them out. And she's created a market and a solution to a problem that nobody really even understood they had, kind of thing. And then through that, she's added other things. That's what I like about her.
That's what I love speaking about. I love speaking about gratitude and authenticity, and it's fun, and it's like what Mikey said. You've got this paragraph, you got to speak for an hour. Oh my God, do I have enough content? Yeah, because you're just talking from your heart and what you believe in, your truth, and the words just flow. And I learned that when I went to London I did my first public speaking event in London at a private event, and I was scared to death. I was scared to death.
But I think, Kellen, you pointed out sort of the journey of overcoming fear opens so many doors that you don't even know exist.
Right.
And once you lose that fear, or the fear of being judged negatively when you're being your authentic self, it does change the world. You may not get exactly what you thought you were after, or but you will move forward in ways that can be pretty magical.
But sometimes there's some really nice surprises, that it didn't turn out the way you expected, but whoa, this happened. And how cool is that?
I feel that way with my coaching practice. It's completely different than I thought it would be when I was certified as a focal point coach. And I absolutely love it. I'm so passionate about it. I can hardly contain myself, but I didn't see it coming at all. Zero. Some of my clients are completely outside of what I thought it would be like.
Yeah.
And I think the key is to not have unreasonable expectations.
Well,
before Kellen life, crazy expectations, unreachable expectations.
Being open and being detached was something I heard last couple of weekends ago when I was in California, in Beverly Hills, and hanging out with a group of like-minded people, and we were being mentored and taught how to think properly. Not that we weren't thinking properly, but this fellow lives the principles of Napoleon Hill, and he was sharing that with us. And it's not being attached. One of the things he did was, the original reason for being there didn't kind of pan out, that he had an experiment. He was looking for a business to grow from one of us, and he would coach and mentor somebody, and we'd all share in the growth of that. Nobody had an idea that was suitable for putting in the public world and putting in the stock market. We had lots of great ideas, and he encouraged people how to do it, and he helped us do that. But we're going to still be doing things. But in that experience of throwing a pebble in the pond and being a ripple, as a result of it, we had the experience. We could have had our money back. He would offered it because it wasn't what we thought we wanted to get out of it, or we could stay with it. And then we're part of now another business he had in the background that he's been working on. So we all have a small interest in that, and we've been invited to participate if we want to do more with it. So out of constraints, adversity, and things going sideways, kaleidoscope wise, if you're open to it, what I learned from that weekend, or was not just learned, but reaffirmed for me, was, if you're open to it, opportunities everywhere. If you're not, you won't see it. You'll have blinders. Boop. What opportunity? There's no opportunity. And as soon as you do this, I can see further. Right?
Yeah, I love also. I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think a lot of what we've been discussing here comes down to being this understanding of controlling what you can control, which is primarily yourself and your actions and what you do and what you think, but also being resolute in your intentions and what you're striving for and your goal setting, but flexible in understanding that what comes at you, you have to adjust. You have to, like they say in positive intelligence, think about being the surfer, right? And ride the wave and go with it while remaining resolute and understanding that barriers are going to come, constraints are going to come at you, and you can just control how you respond to them.
Mike, did you come up with that just for Mikey?
I figured it was appropriate.
It was very, and look at the wave behind Kellen. Look at that wave behind her.
That's my Van Gogh swirl in my colors.
Yes, I
Nice.
love it. Well, can I flip the switch a little bit on constraint? There's the other side of constraint that we talked about before, and there's the other side of love and fear. Right, there's lots of things under fear, but there's also lots of emotions under love. That it's not just there's only one thing here and there's 1,000 here. There's 10,000 things under love. And there's also 10,000 ways that we use constraint. Constraint is one of the first things that I use in a business strategy to be able to make something expand differently. So constraints are really helpful in getting people to unwire the way that they used to do it and rewire it to a different perspective. So constraints also have a really positive effect when they're used efficiently. A constraint like who or how, right? That these are also ways that we can think about the equation differently. When you think about constraints, how can we invite people to use constraints in an innovation lab, in an innovation way in their business? Because a constraint also can be a positive item.
Yeah.
I think we should channel Kellen. I'm sorry. We should channel Kellen. Kellen's exploring. She's exploring from a confidence lens, not necessarily just from a rose-colored glasses on or off lens.
Yeah.
But she's really exploring from opportunities and possibilities. There's something magical about that. That's a chance to just really show up in a lab on your own terms and play full out. I think there's just something wonderful to celebrate there.
And is that agency? Is that agency, or is that just confidence? Or is it a smashing?
I don't know. I'm just thinking of the constraint. My constraint was COVID, kind of.
Sure.
Okay. But I don't know. I don't think, but that was thrown at me. I didn't like, I may be misunderstanding what you were saying about could a constraint help you? Like,
Yeah, I'll throw out a thought here. Yeah.
Here, Mike's got something here. Let's go to Mike.
So I'll give you an analogy from music. I'm a musician and a drummer. And so
This is perfection.
So, if you think of a drum set, you've got all these cymbals and different drums and things. And sometimes we use constraints as a way to spur innovation. And I love this concept. So if I say, I can only play 2 surfaces. I can't use this entire drum set. I'm just going to use 2 surfaces. That constraint actually spurs this creativity, because how can I make more out of this limited set of ingredients, so to speak, or instruments? And so I find that's really powerful. So, in business, you can take away some things that you might have. Like, what if I didn't have a website? Or what if I couldn't meet with people? Or what if I only had one service to offer? How could I expand that? How could I squeeze more value out of that narrow lane? And I think it's incredibly powerful technique for spurring innovation and creativity.
And I would add to that and say, if you have a client, I have a client now that wants to 10x their business. So that's a totally different mindset.
Yep.
So I'm able to help them. So we got to think about human capital, financial capital. What's that look like? We got to think outside the box. We're not just going to do what we've been doing, this organic growth. It's not going to work. So
that's right.
That's one of the reasons this client is going to Las Vegas to this trade show, to start to look at the equipment that we needed to 10x the business. So, I think
it's like narrowing your focus.
But I wouldn't purposely put a constraint in to hopefully spur creativity or growth. I will deal with a constraint and maneuver it and manipulate it to my advantage.
And that's where I'm offering a new way of thought, is that using a constraint has an immense amount of power for you artistically and creatively. So, and artists use this a lot. I think it's no short, Mike brought up that he's a musician. A constraint is a very common tool in creating as a group, in creating a sound, in creating a wave of something. So I do want to just bring to the table that constraints aren't always negative, that there is another way to use a constraint that is positive and powerful and focused, and it will give you an opportunity to innovate in a way that is just all brains firing, right?
Mhm.
All parts of your brain have to fire to go, can I do this on a train? Can I do this on a plane? Can I do this in this other way, right? I will eat green eggs and ham, right? I will eat green eggs and ham. It just gives you another piece of life to your
I think you
option.
nailed it, Mickey. It's
What I like about
moving
what I like,
past that fear
yeah,
and moving past that constraint, and how
what I like
you know,
about the constraint is it turns on the creative juices to solve the problem the
Right.
constraint is causing.
Right.
And it makes me think in an innovative and creative fashion. I'm not an artist, I'm not a musician, but I'm pretty creative in a variety of different ways. And if it didn't have that tension and that angst of like if you're not dissatisfied, there's no change. We'll just stay in a set point of mediocrity. So if we're happy in mediocrity, where 80% of people live, and no slight at those people, it's in a conditioning of the way we are wired as human beings. We have this thing called the creative subconscious mind, and its job is to maintain sanity no matter what. So when we step out of our greatness into being creative and writing a book and going to London, we need to have a big drive and pull to go beyond that, not let the constraint talk us out of it and keep us in our isness, which is our self concept of who we see ourselves as. It's all a lie. Nothing really matters. Nothing matters until we give it meaning. Anyway.
Well, that being
I
said,
didn't know I was going to talk about any of this today. It's amazing.
I will not purposely put a constraint in my way because things are hard enough. Okay. But I will take on that challenge and beat it every time. It's like I play the violin. Like I'm not going to say today, I'm not going to play B flat or F sharp because that's creating a constraint that will make playing a certain piece virtually impossible. Well, maybe not impossible. I mean, I guess you're right. I would have to force myself to figure out a way around it.
Exactly.
But I'm not going to do that on purpose. You know,
Well, and that's its own constraint.
right.
Or
Yes.
think about it from an art perspective, right? Instead of using every color in the palette, what if you could only use two? What new might come out of that thinking? You might come up with a new way to shade. You might focus on shading much more than you did because you would use a different color. So it's very freeing. It's actually freeing. Like the constraint doesn't limit you. It opens things up sometimes.
Oh, hell yeah. Hell yeah.
I really love that Mike said this from a perspective of art. I think with me, sometimes someone using the word can't brings out the where there's a will, there's a way.
Right.
And, you know, we joked about this even in our households. I didn't want to say, you know, to a family member, you want to see what I can do? Say the word can again. Say the word can't again. See how many times you can say it in a week and how many times I'll show up and surprise you.
Love it.
Right. Wow. Wow.
Well,
I love Tom's statement.
This is a Facebook user that doesn't want to tell us who they are, but I'm going to give us a clue, and somebody else in this room knows who this is. Watch this, Kellen. Watch this. Are you ready, Kellen? That's who it is.
I can't see. Wait.
They're wearing bedazzled pants.
Is it Eric Bam?
It has to be.
It's
Who else
Bam!
wears bedazzled pants? That's the constraint he has, wearing bedazzled pants.
He always wears bedazzled pants. Every show I've been on, he says in a comment, I'm wearing bedazzled pants.
I'm wearing bedazzled pants.
Do you know what
Bam.
Do you know
What
what
a great way to light up a Monday.
Do you know what I don't like about this show?
It has to end.
Yeah. And we're at that 1 minute to go.
Oh, man.
This was going crazily good, I thought.
This was fun. Thank you.
I want to thank everybody that's here for being here. I'd like to thank everybody who's watching live or going to watch on the replay. And I also want to thank those who made comments in the narrative that we were able to find and bring up because it stimulated my fellow panelists to have a conversation. So, man, you guys are all awesome. I'm going to wrap this up and bring it to what do they call it?
Thank you,
The
Phil.
landing. And again, I'm so grateful for that you all jumped on and supported this episode of the Business Renovator. See y'all in a bit.
Bye, everyone. Thanks
Bye.
for coming. Thanks for showing up. Comment, like, share.
Absolutely. Thanks for getting in here, Mickey. Appreciate you. Wow. Did you get stuff out of that? I did. Watch the replay. I'm going to go watch the replay myself because there were a number of nuggets in there. I wasn't able to capture them all, but it is recorded. It is in the YouTube world. It's in LinkedIn, and it's a few other places. If you've got a thought, question, or comment for us, let us know. And we want to hear. That's how we get better. Knowing what we now know, we can make things better. If there's a topic you want us to address as a panel, let us know that as well. We have a few spots available. I'm looking over here at the screen to get to my wrapping it up. I'm going to try it from this point of view. I'm going to get out of the way. Weather guy. Oh, it's this hand. Look at this right there. The you in wonderful is there because you are unique and you are wonderful. Continue to be your unique, wonderful self. Until next time, I'm Coach Phil. This has been the Business Renovator.
I get shit done. I get shit done. I have fun. It's my time and I'm the one. I'm breaking through.